Call Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. In the committee stages on Part 1 of this bill, the government used its majority to vote down a supplementary order paper in my name requiring a warrant to be obtained prior to the exercise of the novel powers which Parliament intends to give to the state by this bill. Now, under urgency, sir, we're debating Part 2 of this legislation in committee, and it pays, I think, for Parliament to think about what the novel power is that we propose to confer by this legislation. It is to allow the police to collect, without prior judicial approval, a bodily sample from any person whom they, quote, intend to charge, end quote, with certain specified offences, and later to be expanded to allow the police to collect such a sample from any person when, quote, they intend to charge that person with an imprisonable offence. Now, as the Minister who has just taken a call correctly recorded, I've moved another supplementary order paper, sir, and that is designed to require a select committee of this Parliament to conduct a review of the operation of this new power that we intend to give to the state after 5 years of its operation. And I suggest, sir, given that we're now sitting in urgency and given the committee's decision to reject the requirement for a warrant the last time this was discussed when we were debating Part 1, that review is even more important, because we have a power of literal physical compulsion conferred under urgency with no judicial supervision whatsoever intended. Now, the Minister says, the Ministry will conduct a review of the operation of the legislation by August 2011. But of course, that review, Mr Chairman, is intended to satisfy the state that it can move satisfactorily to Part 2 of the legislation, which is to extend the powers contained in the legislation from the specified offences that are dealt with in the legislation to all imprisonable offences. So this is quite a different sort of review to the one that my supplementary order paper intends, sir. What I'm suggesting is that there be a long and hard look taken by this Parliament at whether or not it has overall been a good idea to extend the powers of the state without judicial supervision under urgency in this way. And that is something that I submit a select committee would be well suited to do, report back to the Parliament after hearing all the evidence, not in an election year, which is what August 2011, the deadline for the Ministry's review, will bring us to, but after 5 years of operation, where you've got a track record where the police and their actions can be looked at in an objective fashion, and when we can work out properly whether or not this legislation has made the contribution that we all think it will to overall law and order. So, sir, I do hope that the Minister will take another call at some point during the debate, that there will be a reconsideration of what appears to be the government's initial decision to reject the idea of more independent review, given that this is a very new power that the state intends to take to itself. It is proposing that the state, an organ of the state, an organ of the Crown, review the exercise of that power after a very short period of time in an election year, and for the purpose of whether or not to decide whether that power should be extended. This review, sir, is an entirely different beast. It intends to consider the exercise of the new powers in the round, to help us decide whether or not we've made a wise choice in extending the powers of the state the way that it's intended to do without judicial supervision. And, sir, I have to say, I do think if Parliament thinks about this carefully, it will determine that the review that's set out in the supplementary order paper is a much better mechanism than the substitute offered by the Minister.